Breaking stories that matter. This is Shadowline News. Nairobi landlords at risk of losing land as county announces crackdown. Nairobi County has initiated enforcement action against property owners who have violated building codes and land use regulations, threatening to revoke titles for hundreds of landlords across the capital. The crackdown targets properties built without proper permits, those exceeding approved floor area ratios, and structures constructed on public utility reserves or riparian land. Property owners now face immediate compliance deadlines to regularize their developments or risk having their land ownership certificates canceled by the county government. This enforcement drive could potentially displace thousands of tenants while forcing landlords to either demolish non-compliant sections of their buildings or surrender the properties entirely to avoid criminal prosecution. Next up, ODPP announces crackdown on perpetrators of online sexual harassment. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has launched a targeted enforcement initiative against online sexual harassment, responding to Kenya's growing digital gender-based violence crisis that affects an estimated 23% of women internet users, according to recent surveys. This crackdown comes as cybercrime reports have surged 300% since 2020, with sexual harassment cases comprising nearly 40% of all online abuse complaints filed with the Communications Authority. The ODPP's move signals a shift from treating these crimes as minor offenses to pursuing serious prosecutions under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, which carries penalties of up to 20 million shillings, or 20 years imprisonment. Women's rights groups have documented how online sexual harassment forces many female entrepreneurs and professionals to limit their digital presence, directly impacting Kenya's digital economy participation rates. In other developments, Kenyan government responds after court suspends multi-billion-shilling export deal. The government's swift response to the court suspension of this multi-billion-shilling export agreement signals serious economic implications for Kenya's foreign exchange earnings and trade partnerships. Export deals of this magnitude typically involve agricultural commodities, minerals, or manufactured goods that contribute significantly to the country's GDP and employment in key sectors. The court's intervention suggests either procedural irregularities in the deal's approval process or constitutional challenges that could set precedent for future large-scale trade agreements. This suspension will likely delay revenue collection and may strain diplomatic relations with the importing partner country, particularly if contractual obligations remain unfulfilled during the legal proceedings. Meanwhile, U.S. announces 19 Kenya shillings billion medical funding targeting 5 countries, including Kenya. The United States has committed 19 Kenya shillings billion in medical funding across 5 countries, with Kenya securing a significant portion of resources that will directly strengthen our healthcare infrastructure and disease prevention programs. This substantial investment comes at a critical time when Kenya's public health system faces mounting pressure from non-communicable diseases, maternal mortality rates that remain above regional targets, and ongoing challenges in rural healthcare access. The funding will likely focus on expanding medical equipment procurement, training healthcare workers, and building diagnostic capabilities in counties where specialized medical services remain scarce. Kenya's inclusion alongside 4 other nations positions the country as a strategic health partner for the U.S., potentially opening doors for additional bilateral cooperation in pharmaceutical manufacturing and medical research initiatives that could create thousands of jobs in the health sector. Turning to another story, Gladys Wanga's husband takes over lucrative government job. Homa Bay County Governor Gladys Wanga's husband has secured a high-paying government position, marking another instance of spousal appointments that have become increasingly common across Kenya's 47 counties since devolution began in 2013. George Wanga, husband to Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga, was appointed as the managing director, or chief executive officer, of the Kenya Literature Bureau, KLB, by President William Ruto. He officially took over the position on November 26, 2025, for a 3-year term. The appointment follows a pattern seen in at least 15 other counties, where governors have placed family members in key roles, with such positions typically carrying monthly salaries ranging from 200,000 to 500,000 shillings plus allowances. This development intensifies scrutiny over conflict of interest practices in county governments, where the Public Officer Ethics Act requires disclosure of potential conflicts, but lacks strong enforcement mechanisms. The move comes as Homa Bay County manages an annual budget of approximately 8.5 billion shillings, with residents already questioning the transparency of procurement processes and hiring practices under the current administration. Also breaking, MP defends government's borrowing, states why. The MP for Alaga Usonga, Samuel Atandi's defense comes as Kenya's public debt has surged to over 10 trillion Kenya shillings, representing roughly 70% of the country's GDP, and triggering widespread concern about debt sustainability. Government borrowing has accelerated significantly since 2013, with major infrastructure projects like the Standard Gauge Railway costing taxpayers approximately 500 billion Kenya shillings, while critics question the economic returns on such investments. The legislators' justification likely centers on infrastructure development and economic stimulus, but Kenyans are increasingly feeling the pinch through higher taxes and reduced government spending on essential services to meet debt obligations. This debate directly affects every citizen as debt servicing now consumes nearly 60% of government revenue, limiting funds available for healthcare, education, and social programs that millions depend on daily. In other news, Kenya announces all-day traffic disruption affecting Nairobi-Nakuru Highway. The Kenya National Highways Authority has declared an all-day traffic disruption on the Nairobi-Nakuru Highway, affecting one of Kenya's busiest transport corridors that handles over 15,000 vehicles daily. This closure will force thousands of commuters, cargo trucks carrying goods to Uganda and other East African destinations, and long-distance travelers to use alternative routes like the congested Limuru Road or the longer Nyahururu route, adding up to 2 hours to journey times. The economic impact extends beyond inconvenience as the highway serves as a critical supply line for agricultural products from Rift Valley farmers heading to Nairobi markets, potentially disrupting food distribution chains and increasing transport costs. Businesses along the route, including fuel stations, restaurants, and lodges that depend on steady traffic flow, face significant revenue losses during what appears to be emergency maintenance work by Kenya. On another front, Moses Kuria drops allegations on Kenya's drug prices and quality. Moses Kuria's decision to withdraw his allegations about Kenya's drug pricing and quality removes a significant political pressure point that could have forced parliamentary investigations into the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority and local pharmaceutical manufacturers. The former Trade Cabinet Secretary had previously claimed that essential medications were being sold at markups exceeding 300%, while substandard drugs flooded public health facilities, allegations that prompted the Kenya Association of Pharmaceutical Industries to threaten legal action. Kuria's retreat likely prevents a potential audit of KEMSA's procurement processes, which handles over 60 billion shillings annually in medical supplies for county governments and national referral hospitals. His withdrawal of these claims means Kenyans may continue facing high drug costs without the policy intervention his initial statements seemed to promise. That's your Shadowline News update.